I think with the Paxton impeachment, with what we've learned, what we know, what came out in the trial over in the Senate, the Paxton impeachment revealed the level of corruption that is inside the Texas House leadership. Full stop. And I want to get to the bottom of just how deep this corruption is and how far it extends. And I want to have that discussion with two members of the Texas House. Representative Tony Tinderholt, he's a conservative who represents District 94 in the Texas State House. And Representative Brian Harrison, he represents the 10th district here in the great state of Texas. Prior to that, he served President Trump's as chief of staff there at HHS. Hey, guys, welcome.
Good morning, my friend.
Hey, guys, nice to have you. Look, you both have been very, very active on social media, so I want to give you guys your say on this. You go first, Representative Tinderholt. The impeachment, the Paxton impeachment, just what have you been putting out? What's your view from 30,000 feet?
Well, first of all, from the ground level, we were on the ground. It's despicable. Our speaker asked people to walk off a cliff, and they did it. And then they find out a month and a half later that they made a huge mistake, and now they're doubling down. And so it's pretty despicable that they take the most effective attorney general in the country, and they promise tons of evidence, and they say that he's going to be convicted, and here we have 0 for 16 in the Senate. And, you know, I think that it's horrible that the speaker asked people to do that. The speaker specifically said, show the speaker voting aye. And when the speaker does that, that specifically means you better do what I'm doing. Because if you look all session, he doesn't do that. He doesn't vote on stuff. He voted on that. And now my peers, Republicans in the Texas House, are going to have to go, some of them to a primary, and they're going to have to answer for that vote. And the ones that are doubling down, I think they're going to have a tough time. And it's just despicable that it happened. I'm just beside myself. It was Democrat-led. Let's be very clear. There were more Democrats that voted for that than there were Republicans on the House floor with the Speaker of the House to impeach the most effective Republican Attorney General in the country.
Representative Harrison, how are you saying it?
Well, what I want to say is just thank God for the Texas Senate. Thank God for Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick for conducting a fair trial, a transparent trial, for reaching a verdict that was obviously correct given the absolute shocking lack of evidence. And look, the Texas House leadership, they absolutely misled and pressured so many Republicans, 60, to join what was objectively true, a Democrat effort to overturn an election. And I think they disgraced themselves, the House leadership, and I think they tarnished the reputation, maybe irreparably, of the entire Texas House of Representatives. Now, Chris, you as well or better than just about anybody out there understands what's at stake in 2023 in America. The next generation is on the line. It's not even tongue-in-cheek or cliche to say that. Every one of our freedoms and liberties, they're being eroded. So when the stakes are this high, when all of our cherished principles are on the line, instead of the Texas House of Representatives, instead of rising to the moment and passing bold conservative bills to secure the border, pass school choice, ban COVID mandates, fix our grid, fix our energy market, limit tyrannical emergency powers, to cut spending, to end property taxes, to slash, job-crushing regulations, or to keep the communist Chinese from buying our land. The Speaker of the Texas House prioritized the impeachment of a recently reelected Attorney General who, and I say this, whether other people like Ken Paxton or don't like Ken Paxton, it's a fact. He has proven time and time again that he is up to the most important task of our time, and that's fighting against the out-of-control federal government who under Joe Biden seeks to destroy our rights, our freedoms, our liberties, our sovereignty, and our Constitution. He's trying to do it every day.
Gentlemen, here's what I have said about voting guides coming into next year's primaries. You can either, let's bring up the example that Representative Harrison just brought up, say that your real important issue was the fact that Texas stopped selling land to known enemies of the United States, Communist China, the People's Republic of Iran, Mother Russia. We stopped doing that. It was a common sense bill that was sent over by Lois Colcourse in the Senate that 3 Republicans, Dade Phelan, Todd Hunter, and Dustin Burrows, killed. So if that's your issue, then that could be your voting guide. Those individuals should not be reelected. There are others like Texas Scorecard who've identified the Dirty Dozen. And you guys have seen the list, the Dirty Dozen, individuals responsible for basically delivering for Democrats. They are actually Democrats in practice. They actually deliver and make sure that socialist Democrats get their priorities passed. Charlie Guerin, Glenn Rogers, J.C. Jetton, Todd Hunter, Ken King, Jeff Leach, Craig Goldman, Dustin Burrows, Lynn Stuckey, Stephanie Click, Andrew Murr, Justin Holland, and, of course, the Speaker. Then there's others who say, anybody who voted for this damned impeachment, knowing that nobody was put under oath, 60 Republicans, that should be your voting guide. None of them should go back. I'd like to ask you both this question and give me your honest opinion. Of the Republicans in the caucus, in the House, Mr. Tinderholt, how many were legitimately duped? How many today are going in Dave Phelan's office going, you assured me that there was proof, and there was none, and I took a dangerous vote, and now my butt's on the line, and I'm going to lose my seat. Give me a percentage of Republicans in the State House who actually will do that.
Let me go back and answer something you mentioned a moment ago. You were talking about scorecards. I want to mention something about scorecards. Be careful with those. Rice University is normally a really good scorecard, but several members, the very top members on the Rice University scorecard, Jared Patterson, those guys all, what they did is they gamed the system. They voted no on almost every Democrat bill on local and consent calendar. And
well, Representative, I'm sorry. I wasn't clear. This is the Texas Scorecard is the news organization that put out that documentary called The Texas Heist. And these are the 12 they identified as the Dirty Dozen. So it's not a scorecard, it's the Texas Scorecard, okay?
I'm getting there. I want to make a point.
Okay.
When people are looking to vote, you mentioned voting this spring. Be careful. We are very fortunate that when Rice University fixes it and they take local and consent off, I think you're going to see the Jared Pattersons of the world that are going around touting that they're number one. I think they're going to drop down very significantly lower. And he's one of the people, look, he's one of the percentage that is doubling down on this impeachment. I would say that out of the remaining Republicans, let's just talk about the percentage. I think there's about maybe half of the Republicans were duped. The other half really believe this and were pushing it forward. But the bottom line is this. They're going to have to go in March if they have a primary and explain this. And I think you're going to see a big turnover just because of that vote, and no one's even going to look at the scorecard.
Mr. Harrison, how do you look at it? How many, as a percentage of Republicans, are actually angry and have awakened and saying, oh my gosh, the Speaker Phelan, Murr, Jeff Leach lied to me?
Well, they should all be angry. But listen, none of them, I hate to say this, they got pressured. There was bullying. There were dishonest pressure tactics going on the floor of the House and in back rooms like you can't believe. I mean, arms twisted to the point of being broken. But here's the reality, Chris. They should all be angry that the leadership of the Texas House lied to them.
Oh, no, I know they should. But again, I'm sorry, Representative, I know they all should be. Yeah. That's if they had a conscience, and that's what I'm trying to determine. How many individuals in the who call themselves Republicans, in your estimation, are actually men or women of conscience? How many of them are just like, oh, well, I get lied to all the time. I really don't care as long as I get my committee assignment or my power or whatever the hell. What I like to know is how many in reality are actually moral and ethical people, and how many of them really just think this is all par for the course?
It's impossible for me to put a number on that and to quantify it, but what I can tell you is you look at the committee chairman, the people that Dave Phelan gives all his power to, they're probably okay with this. They're going to double down on stupid because they get their power, they get their titles, they get their committee chairmanship. To all the rest of the Republicans in the House, I have no idea what they got or what they think they got in exchange for taking a long walk off a short pier, because here's the reality, Chris. None of them, whether they feel like they're going to double down on the Speaker's team or accept and embrace reality, none of the members who voted for this impeachment have an excuse. Not one of them, despite how many of them put out statements the day in that Saturday in May when we voted to impeach Ken Paxton, saying they did so because they reviewed the evidence. Chris, there was no evidence to review. So none of them are without excuse. And here's the reality. The Texas House leadership, we know they lied because they put in an op-ed, Andy Murr, the chief impeachment officer in the House, wrote in an op-ed that the Attorney General demonstrated, quote, a shocking pattern of abuse and criminality, and, quote, the evidence we found was conclusive. This was back in May. Mm-hmm. Well, now the whole world, because of the Texas Senate, has seen the, quote, unquote, evidence, and there wasn't a shred of evidence that rose to substantiate the incredibly high claims of abusive patterns of abuse and criminality. But the reality is, Chris, every single Republican that voted for impeachment, they voted for impeachment knowing full well they did not do it on the basis of evidence because the Texas House presented no evidence to the House members before we voted.
100%. Andrew Murr is a liar, and is now a proven liar, as has anybody who carried that mantle claiming that they had proof that Ken Paxton had done anything criminal in this impeachment effort. Folks, we're talking to Tony Tinderholt and Brian Harrison, representatives in the Texas State House. I asked Tony Busby, one of the fantastic attorneys for Ken Paxton's team, the defense team, in the Senate trial, I said, are there any legal ramifications now that we know that Andy Murr lied? Now that we know that Speaker Dade Phelan lied about proof of criminality in an effort to push this impeachment? They lied. I said, is there any criminal liability for them for filing a false impeachment? And Busby says, nope, there is. In Texas, you're allowed to lie and file an impeachment based on a lie and have no criminal responsibility for what you have done. Doesn't that need to change, Representative Tinderholt?
I think it absolutely does. When you're bringing people in and you're having them testify to you, let's remember, it's behind closed doors, it's secret, and you're not swearing under oath. I mean, that should be criminal. Because this entire impeachment was based upon people that came in and were not even sworn in under oath. They admitted that during our impeachment layout, the layout that they did to the Texas House, and we saw it follow up in the Senate where they did not have the evidence that was promised, and these people were not sworn in under oath. I think you should absolutely have to be held accountable for something this egregious, because this is egregious. This wasn't where they had, half of those articles that were found where he was guilty. They were 0 for 16, and even one of them, I believe, was 28-2. 2 Democrats voted yes, and everyone else voted no. But, I just
I want to pick up on that.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's such an incredibly important point that's getting lost in all the coverage. 60 so-called Republican members of the Texas House were pressured and shamed into voting for articles of impeachment against the recently reelected Attorney General Ken Paxton that were so absurd, so facially flawed, such hot garbage that even almost every single Senate Democrat rejected them.
Wow. Well, and that's key, and I'll follow up the question to you. So shouldn't there be criminal penalties for individuals in the future who did what Dade Phelan did, who did what Andy Murr did, who did what the impeachment cabal, the liars, did? Shouldn't there be criminal penalties if they are found to have misrepresented as they were found in the Ken Paxton impeachment case?
Two thoughts on that. The first I would say is that just like the title that I have, representative, every one of those individuals you just named, their job title is representative. They owe it to their voters to explain what they just did, and I think their voters are justified in being furious and perhaps, thinking twice about sending them back. I think those are fair questions to ask. But then number two, I think the Lieutenant Governor hit the nail on the head at the end of the trial when he demanded immediate changes to the state constitution. That's what we need to prioritize to make sure that this travesty of justice never occurs again in the great state of Texas. And I sent a formal letter to Governor Abbott yesterday asking that in addition to school choice, which he's going to call us back for, he add to the agenda for the special session a demand that the House and the Senate come together and change the Texas Constitution to make sure that these shoddy, sham, disgusting, irresponsible, reckless, staggeringly incompetent proceedings that the Texas House used to impeach the Attorney General can never once again be hoisted upon 30 million Texans.
Right. Dan Patrick.
Well, Brian,
go ahead.
I think that aside from that, every representative, specifically the conservatives, should also be very afraid that at any moment that there's a secret hearing with the General Investigating Committee that's trying to punish them for being conservative. Yeah. Every day that we go to the Texas House, we should be worried there's a secret hearing happening to take us down and do something unethical and immoral and illegal.
Boy, that's true.
That's a great point.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick on this program yesterday said that Speaker Phelan needs to be a man, quote, be a man and admit the Paxton impeachment was wrong. I think any objective observer knows that it was wrong, that it was conducted wrongly, it was conducted in secret. Nothing conducted in secret is worth doing when you're trying to make criminal allegations. It should have been able to stand up to transparency, and that's my last question to the both of you, because as you said, there are some folks who are doubling down on, yes, it's perfectly legitimate to deny an impeachment being putting witnesses, co-conspirators, I call them, under oath. There is one gentleman by the name of Jeff Leach who used to come on this program and has since stopped, just like the Speaker has stopped. One of the House prosecutors he defended having no witnesses, co-conspirators placed under oath. He defended preventing Ken Paxton and his attorneys from defending themselves in the House. He defended having Obama lawyers work in secret, and then spinning impeachment onto the members with less than 48 hours for them to review all of this stuff. It was, by the way, not under oath. I have to keep on pointing that out. With just hours to review it. Here's what he said on Twitter, X, that I want you to react to. He said, very short, duty is ours, results are God's. Hashtag Texas legislature. So when you hear Jeff Leach, a man who defended, in my view, indefensible processes in the House, Representative Tinderholt, duty is ours, results are God's, as in possessive, God's results. What is your reaction when you hear Jeff Leach say something like that?
I will tell you that we have some very intelligent, smart lawyers on the Texas floor. And I think Jeff Leach is a smart guy. Dumb move. Absolutely dumb move. God's results came, and they found it's 0 for 16. I don't know how it's indefensible that you would take people and not put them under oath, and then you wouldn't allow Ken Paxton's lawyers, when they found out about the secretive hearings that were happening, you wouldn't even let them go in and explain themselves. It was an absolute witch hunt. I don't care what any of those people try to tell us or try to tell the media. They're smart people. They really made a dumb, unethical, really bad move that's going to cost them in March if they have a primary. I don't see how any of this is defensible. To be honest, though, I'm not surprised about some of them, because we deal with them on the floor every day. And they kill really good Republican legislation. They talk horrible about the Republican Party. So I'm not surprised. Indefensible. And I'm absolutely disgusted by it.
Yeah, they truly do despise our people. And Representative Harrison, again, here's the quote, duty is ours, results are God's. What do you say?
Yeah, I saw that statement. What? I couldn't help but laugh. I'll be honest. What a truly bizarre statement. And it took him a few days to come up with that. I mean, what is the implication, even if that statement is true? If the results are God's, is he saying that God supported the 0 for 16 results that the Texas Senate handed down? And what does it say about God's view of the work he did in the last 3 months trying to overturn an election? Look, There is no defense. Let me be really clear, and I'll slow down. There is no defense for what the Texas House did. Any member who was involved with House leadership in this travesty, there are only two options as far as I'm concerned. Number one is to apologize. Do the right thing. Exercise humility. Whether you knew there was no evidence and you lied saying there was, or you trusted Speaker Dade Phelan that there would be evidence, either way, you said things to your voters that were inaccurate, and you should apologize and own it like a man. Or, if you're the Speaker, because he is ultimately responsible in the chamber for everything that happens, because he prioritized this impeachment of Ken Paxton, and because on top of that, he has continued to appoint liberal Democrats to chair powerful committees, and because he has presided over the House, everyone's seen footage of this, in a state where he is clearly unable to execute the duties of his office, I think the only thing that's appropriate for Speaker Dade Phelan to do is to step down, and to step down immediately.
Last question I have for the both of you. What now? How will you two go, as you are seen as the voices of the most conservative and ethical folks inside of the Texas House? You guys are probably the most vocal out there representing that, sad to say, small group of people. Mr. Tinderholt, what are your objectives in the coming months?
I think next month we have to go back and try to pass school choice, but sadly, there's a lot of Republicans that don't want school choice to happen. They don't follow or care about the Republican Party of Texas and the priorities and how they're created, and that we're elected to go execute those priorities. And so I think part of my job as a legislator is to go first and foremost represent the people of my district, the 200-ish thousand people in my district. And secondly, I think it's all of our jobs to hold one another accountable. First and foremost, for being ethical, honest, and having integrity in what we do. And second, I think it's important to hold them accountable for being the Republicans that they decided to be by putting the R in front of their name. And if they don't do that, our job is to make sure that the voters know what they're doing so that people can no longer lie to their constituents and go to Austin and do the opposite of what they promised people they do by putting the R in front of their name.
Well, a vote.
My goal is to go down and pass school choice
during
the next month or two. Sadly, I think we'll end up doing 2 or 3 special sessions because for some reason the House always messes it up and the Senate sends it over to us, and we just can't seem to pass it.
Well, I think that would be, I hope there are a couple of special sessions, and it would take us right into the primaries. And I think it ought to be pointed out, Representative Harrison, to these individuals who call themselves Republicans who were either duped or believed Dade Phelan, that a vote in favor of the majority of Texans, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents who support parental and school choice, education, freedom, that they would actually go a long way into redeeming themselves for their wayward votes on impeachment. But what is your plan the next couple of months in the wake of the Paxton impeachment? Mr. Harrison.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, I was on mute there. Yeah, listen, I'll pick up with the way you asked the question the first time when you said that folks like me are speaking for, unfortunately, a small minority in the Texas House, and that might be true. But, Chris, I believe firmly I am speaking for the vast majority of the 30 million people who love calling Texans home, who understand that with the tyranny coming out of the Biden administration, now is not the time for comfortable timidity. And we came out of a regular session here. I don't care what the leadership of the Texas House says. It was spectacularly unconservative. We grew government bigger than any point in our state's history. And with the next generation on the line, Texas has got to lead, and we got to lead now. We got to pass school choice. I wrote a letter to the governor asking him to add 11 other items. We've got to secure that border. The border's Biden's fault, but if we can do something about it and we don't, then maybe we're just a little bit responsible. We have to do more to secure that border. We've got to protect medical freedom by banning COVID-19 vaccine mandates. I do not understand why Speaker Phelan and Dustin Burrows, it was so important to them to let unvaccinated Texans continue to be fired. That's got to end. We got to rein in executive powers, stop the communist Chinese from buying our land, protect our grid, ban taxpayer-funded lobbying, slash regulations, fix the impeachment process like we talked about, end ESG. We've got to define woman in statute so Biden can be thwarted in his effects and his attempts to harm women and girls in Texas. And then we got to do what my constituents want maybe the most: put our state on a path to finally eliminate property taxes. Those are the things I'm fighting for right now. And maybe it's a minority in the House today that wants it done, but it is a majority of Texans that are demanding bold action on this. And I'm doing everything I can to deliver for them the things that they deserve from their government.
That's a big couple of months, man.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead,
Chris,
Tony.
Before we leave the show, I want to make sure that the people out there listening know how proud we are of our lieutenant governor and the professionalism that he still held strong. He was professional, he was ethical, he was honest. No matter what the outcome was going to be, he presided with integrity. And I want people to know how important that is.
Amen. Amen. Gentlemen, Tony Tinderholt and Brian Harrison, representatives here in the Texas State House, appreciate the time as always.
Great to be with you, my friends.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.